Vari-Max 45-pound thrust trolling motor. I bought this trolling motor off Craigslist thinking it might fit on my son's gheenoe, but it's a canoe model or a kayak model, and it's got an 18-inch shaft, and as you can see it's pretty short. So I made a mistake and it's a little bit too short. So let's take a quick look at just some of the basic parts. You got the controller head up here with your throttle, your mount for attaching it to the boat, and then your electric motor. So I ordered a new column today, a 30-inch, and we're gonna try to replace that. So I've never taken one of these apart before, but I think we can give it a try. I think the major thing is heating this up to get it off the column. So let's take it apart, see what we can do. I think we'll start by taking the prop off, and that's usually just done by hand, and that'll allow us to work on it a little bit easier. That's just a plastic prop with a keeper nut. Now once you get that off, set it up on the bench, and let's talk about a few things that might help out later. First off, have a phone or a camera and take some pictures as you go to help kind of put things back together. So first thing I think we need to do, we've got the power cord going into the controller, so that's the first thing we probably should do is disconnect this power. Let's go ahead and start that. As you can see, you got looks like 5 screws on the bottom that are holding this together, so I'll go ahead and start by taking those out, and we'll see what it looks like in there. Well, we got the screws out of that controller. I just got those in a little bag so I can keep track of them, and we'll keep those on the bench. So let's set it up on the sawhorse and make it a little easier to take a look at. Okay, so we got the bolts out, and let's see, this goes in reverse. I see the cap has a little locking mechanism, so we'll try to take a few close-up pictures of that, keep you from cracking the top. Okay, so we're going to try to pop this cover backwards and unlock that little latch and take a look inside. Okay. I'm going to bring the video over and let's see if we can get a look inside. So you could see that it's got a little computer board in the cap, and some more electronics where the power cord connects. Thankfully they've got connectors, so let's see if we can get those apart. Matter of fact, before we do, let's go ahead and mark where they came from, and then it'll be easy to determine where to put them back together. Well, as you can see, we've taken the power connections loose, and you can see where I've marked the top and marked this base. Next thing is going to be to try to get this control arm loose, and I think it disconnects near the handle, so I've made another mark just to ensure I get that line back up in the same place. Now under that plate, under the control handle, is where our battery connection to the motor is, and that's what we've got to get to next. Okay, so we removed the screw, top screw holding that plate, and also see, if you look down inside, there's the rest of the bracket to that plate goes down inside, and there's a bolt running through it. So we'll look around the side and we can see that it's just down underneath the power cable. So let's remove that and see if that helps us get that electrical block out. So to remove this, we're going to use a 5mm Allen wrench, and we're going to go ahead and pull that bolt completely out. That should allow us to remove the head and remove the electrical base and hopefully the power underneath it. You can see there's a quick disconnect. Once we remove that electrical plate, circuit board is connected to a small aluminum housing that quick disconnects. Let's see if we can get inside and check that out. Now you can see once we disconnect the electric from the post inside, I was able to remove the cap and the electrical block. So we're going to set those on the bench and take a look at the lower housing, see if we can remove that. Now, since we removed the housing bolt to get that electrical plate out, that's freed up the lower section of that housing from the clamp, or from the column. So we're just going to lift that off and set it aside. So now that we've got the electric components off, we're left with the height adjustment and the attachment bracket. You'll see below on the shaft there's a zinc block to prevent corrosion. You can see the height adjuster has a pin going through the column, and that's to prevent it from going any higher. So we'll remove that pin and see if we can slide the height adjuster off. So once we remove the pin, we can go ahead and slide this depth adjustment collar off, and we'll set it on the bench. Well, now that we got the height adjuster off, we're going to try to slide this shaft or the column and the motor off. So in doing that, it seems to be catching just a little bit. You can see that going down. It catches right there, so I think we might have a burr on this hole where the pin went through. So I'm going to file that down, and then we'll see if that shaft comes out. So we'll just take a flat file. So now that we knocked that burr off, let's go ahead and try to slide it out and see if we can get that column out. That seems to be, you want to just rotate it back and forth, and there we go. So we got our bracket, attachment bracket, and our shaft just came out. It's a column, actually. I call it a shaft all the time, but it is a column. So yeah, we can get that up on the bench and see if we can figure out how to get it apart. Alright, so the next step is going to be to take the motor off, and then we're going to go ahead and take the zinc plate off. And that'll finish up disassembling, and we'll go from there. Now, with the shape of this, you know, the fin, it's kind of tricky to set something up because you got to keep a good hold of it. So I made a little bracket on the end of this sawhorse, so I'll go ahead and get this set in there. I used a little scrap wood just to make a good block to hold it. Okay, let's grab a screwdriver and we should be able to pop that apart. Get that off pretty easy. Alright, there's our zinc plate. Comes in 2 pieces. Alright. Next thing is to get this shaft out. So hopefully you can see where we're going to have to heat this column up. And you know, we've got Loctite 262 in here, which is the, you know, heavy duty. So I made a little tin foil shield. I'm going to see if I could wrap it around here. Maybe it'll protect the paint. Probably not, but I'm going to give it a try anyway. And so let's see if we can get this column out. Alright, so we got the torch fired up. Let's see if we can break this thing loose. Alright, we got the column out. It took a little bit of heat, but that did it. And I don't know if we could see down inside, but there's definitely some corrosion in there. So we'll try to seal it up really good before we put it back together. Alright, time to extend some wires. So once you splice your wires together, make sure you go ahead and put a piece of shrink tube on it, and that'll seal it up real well. Okay, so we got our shaft in, threaded on one end, but we got to bore a small hole for that pin that we took out that sets the height on the height adjuster. So let's go ahead and see if we can knock that out. I just went ahead and pre-drilled it with a little bit smaller bit. Then I sized this one to the pin. There we go. Let's take a little sandpaper and clean that up. That way it doesn't hang up when we're trying to slide it through the bracket. Okay, the next thing we're going to do, you can see that we went ahead and extended the wires. So let's go ahead and feed those into the column. It'll help getting the wires out, but it's okay. So we've cleaned the threads out real well on the motor, and went and picked up some Loctite 262 thread locker. That's what the manufacturer recommends, so that's what we're going to use to put it back together. Make sure you got a full coat in there. Now let's do a good coat. There we line that up, turn it in. You want to see a nice bead of that thread locker coming out the top. We're going to turn that in all the way, and we're just going to tighten it by hand. And there we go. So let's go ahead and give this a chance to dry. We'll clean this up a little bit and get her put back together. Okay, so we've got our wires back through the column, so let's go ahead and put them through the bracket and get this thing put back together. You want to just look at the video taking it apart. You should have some pretty good notes, and just follow the steps and put it back together. Should be good to go. I'm going to get a plastic clamp to help hold this in position while we get the rest of the electrical stuff put back on. Next thing we want to do is slide our height adjuster back on. Alright, now we'll take the clamp off, slide that down, should be good to go. Let's install this pin. Let's see if we can get that in without crushing my fingers. Well, we got the troller done, put back together. Hope the video helps you if you got to take yours apart. Now all we got to do is get it put on the gheenoe, sharpen up the gigs, and go see if we can stick a flounder. So keep your eye out. Maybe we'll be able to put a video up of our first trip with the old great white. So hey, good fishing, man. Have a good one.